Welcome back, people. For this next couple of episodes, or next segment, if you will, we're going to be talking about some of the most common third party reports that we'll run into. And now you're probably wondering, why the hell are third party reports so important? Well, let's imagine you're on a treasure hunt. You wouldn't just wing it in a treasure hunt. You'd actually want a detailed map that shows you every nook, every cranny, every hidden trap out there. And that's exactly what third party reports do for you in real estate. They leave no stone unturned. They're going to cover everything from the property's condition to its history and its market dynamics. It's like having a badass shield that protects your investment and those of your partners. Because making bad financial decisions is not good in real estate. It's like bringing a knife to a gunfight. And luckily, with these third-party reports, you're not going to be the one providing them because, well, unless you are an expert in the field, I doubt that you'll be able to provide a lot of these things because it's very methodical and there's a lot of shit that actually goes into providing these third-party reports. And that's why we are going to rely on the help of experts that are in the field. So the first type of reports that we are going to be looking at are surveys. And surveys come in a few different flavors. But first, let's talk through what a survey actually is. Think of a property survey as the GPS of real estate. They give you the exact details about property lines, easements, and other rights that affect your use of the property. And by the way, for those that don't know, easements are essentially legal rights that allow someone to use someone else's property for a specific purpose. For example, having a right of way to get to their property. So this info is super important for ensuring that the property complies with zoning laws and avoiding any legal bullshit down the road of your purchasing journey. But it's not just about the surface. Surveys actually dig deep. They check out, septic tanks, wells, and pretty much the entire infrastructure, depending upon what type of survey you actually get. They also highlight any restrictions or conditions like easements or encroachments. Essentially, they tell you what's yours and what's not yours. And that's going to be super important, especially in our CRE deals. They're also super vital for new land developments. They are going to ensure the accuracy and they're going to prevent disputes over property lines. You don't want to be getting into some jam with your neighbor. Once again, imagine you're buying a property, finding out that it's actually smaller than you thought, and you just end up being pissed about it because you didn't get a survey in the beginning. Now, for existing properties, surveys are handy for smaller projects like building a fence. They help you know exactly where your property ends and where your neighbor's begins. Because, once again, you don't want to start a fencing war with your neighbor unless that's your thing. And if that's the case, go wild. Lenders and title companies often need a survey for real estate deals as well. Their requirements can vary, but it's always good on their end to get one. Sometimes you can use an older survey if it's recent and accurate, which would help you save time and money, but a lot of times that might not be the case. A good tip here is that local government offices might also have some surveys that you could use depending on how dated it is. Now, here are the different flavors of surveys. Firstly, we have land surveys. These are pretty much the backbone of property assessments. They give you precise info about parcel boundaries, and they're important for establishing property lines and defining ownership limits. Whether you're buying land or if you're developing property, this comprehensive land survey is very much needed. Then we have topographic surveys. These go beyond the boundaries. They're going to show you bumps and dips and heights of your land. Think of them as like a Google map for builders. They are super awesome for projects like road repairs or new construction because it gives you a detailed look at the terrain. So that's going to help your architects and your engineers and developers to plan their projects to perfection. Next up, we have what's called a monumentation survey. It's usually used for when you're thinking about adding stuff like fences or structures to your property. These surveys are going to mark spots where physical markers or monuments signify property boundaries. They're going to ensure that your additions are perfectly aligned with the property lines. So that's going to help prevent you fighting with your neighbor over whose land is what and whether or not, fences or whatever structure you're putting up is on their shit. Next up, we have as-built surveys. These are essential for upgrades or renovations or additions. They're going to confirm property lines and spot locations for improvements, and they're going to highlight a lot of existing features on that land. So these things act like blueprints. They're going to ensure that upgrades seamlessly fit into the existing layout already. Next up, these are surveys that the banks really love. They're called mortgage surveys. When you get a mortgage, these surveys are going to be super important. They essentially depict property boundaries and give your lenders a clear view of the property's layout. And they're very similar to the as-built surveys. So they're going to ensure your lenders that they have the most accurate information about the property that they're going to be financing. Then we have what's called a floodplain survey. These are like flood-proof maps. They show you where all the flood risks are lurking, and they're essential for determining safe building spots for areas that are flood prone. And lastly, probably the most important survey is called an ALTA survey. This is the deluxe version of a regular survey. It's all about the thoroughness. When you're dealing with commercial real estate, the ALTA survey covers pretty much everything. It gives you property lines, it gives you easements, improvements, any potential issues. It's often required by both your lenders and your insurers because it gives everyone a clear picture of what they're going to be dealing with. In a nutshell, your ALTA survey is the heavyweight champion of property surveys. And as you can imagine, it's going to be the most expensive survey out there because your surveyor is going to have to do a lot more work to get you the full picture. And there you have it. That is our dive into surveys and why they're important. Different surveys have their own different superpowers, and they're tailored for different stages of owning property and different types of property. So knowing the differences is going to be important for you. You don't want to be paying for an ALTA survey every time because, once again, they are the most expensive ones. If you can get by with a, like a land survey or an as-built survey or a mortgage survey, by all means, go that route versus getting the ALTA survey. The key is you have to know why you need a survey. You got to be clear about your purpose, know how to use the info, and that's going to give your surveyor an accurate estimate. And that's a wrap. I appreciate you guys tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and until next time.